CHAPTER I. The Three Ships Sail. Elizabeth of England died in 1603. There came to the English throne James Stuart, King of Scotland, King now of England and Scotland. In 1604, a treaty of peace ended the long war with Spain. Gone was the 16th century. Here, though in childhood, was the 17th century. Now that the wars were over, old colonization schemes were revived in the English mind. Of the motives which in the first instance had prompted these schemes, some with the passing of time had become weaker, some remained quite as strong as before. Most Englishmen and women knew now that Spain had clay feet, and that Rome, though she might threaten, could not always perform what she threatened. To abase the pride of Spain, to make harbours of refuge for the angel of the Reformation, these wishes, though they had not vanished, though no man could know how long the peace with Spain would last, were less fervid than they had been in the days of Drake. But the old desire for trade remained as strong as ever. It would be a great boon to have English markets in the New World, as well as in the Old, to which merchants might send their wares, and from which might be drawn in bulk the raw stuffs that were needed at home. The idea of a surplus population persisted. England of 5,000,000 souls still thought that she was crowded, and that it would be well to have a land of younger sons, a land of promise for all not abundantly provided for at home. It were surely well, for mere pride's sake, to have due lot and part in the great New World. And wealth like that which Spain had found was a dazzle and a lure. Why, man, all their dripping pans are pure gold, and all the chains with which they chain up their streets are massy gold. All the prisoners they take are fettered in gold, and for rubies and diamonds they go forth on holidays and gather 'em by the seashore. So the comedy of Eastward Ho! Seen on the London stage in 1605. Eastward Ho! Because yet they thought of America as on the road around to China. In this year Captain George Weymouth sailed across the sea and spent a summer month in North Virginia, later New England. Weymouth had powerful backers, and with him sailed old adventurers who had been with Raleigh. Coming home to England with 5 Indians in his company, Weymouth and his voyage gave to public interest the needed fillip towards action. Here was the peace with Spain, and here was the new interest in Virginia. "Go to," said Mother England. "It is time to place our children in the world." The old adventurers of the day of Sir Humphrey Gilbert had acted as individuals. Soon was to come in the idea of cooperative action, the idea of the Joint Stock Company, acting under the open permission of the Crown, attended by the interest and favor of numbers of the people, and giving to private initiative and personal ambition a public tone. Some men of foresight would have had Crown and country themselves the adventurers, superseding any smaller bodies. But for the moment the fortunes of Virginia were furthered by a group within the great group, by a joint stock company, a corporation. In 1600 had come into being the East India Company, prototype of many companies to follow. Now, 6 years later, there arose, under one royal charter, 2 companies, generally known as the London and the Plymouth. The first colony, planted by the latter, was short-lived. Its letters patent were for North Virginia. 2 ships, the Mary and John, and the Gift of God, sailed with over 100 settlers. These men, reaching the coast of what is now Maine, built a fort and a church on the banks of the Kennebec. Then followed the usual miseries typical of colonial venture, sickness, starvation, and a freezing winter. With the return of summer the enterprise was abandoned. The foundation of New England was delayed awhile, her Pilgrims yet in England, though meditating that first remove to Holland; her Mayflower only a ship of London port, staunch, but with no fame above another. The London Company, soon to become the Virginia Company, therefore engages our attention. The charter recites that Sir Thomas Gates and Sir George Somers, knights, Richard Hakluyt, clerk, prebendary of Westminster, Edward Maria Wingfield, and other knights, gentlemen, merchants, and adventurers wish to make habitation, plantation, and to deduce a colony of sundry of our people into that part of America commonly called Virginia. It covenants with them and gives them for a heritage all America between the 34th and the 41st parallels of latitude. The 34th parallel passes through the middle of what is now South Carolina. The 41st grazes New York, crosses the northern tip of New Jersey, divides Pennsylvania, and so westward across to that Pacific or South Sea that the age thought so near to the Atlantic. All England might have been placed many times over in what was given to those knights, gentlemen, merchants, and others. The King's charter created a great council of Virginia, sitting in London, governing from overhead. In the new land itself there should exist a second and lesser council. The two councils had authority within the range of Virginian matters, but the Crown retained the power of veto. The council in Virginia might coin money for trade with the Indians, expel invaders, import settlers, punish ill-doers, levy and collect taxes; should have, in short, dignity and power enough for any colony. Likewise, acting for the whole, it might give and take orders to dig, mine, and search for all manner of mines of gold, silver, and copper, to have and enjoy, yielding to us, our heirs and successors, the 5th part only of all the same gold and silver, and the 15th part of all the same copper.